Which the bus?
Okay, I'll call this meeting of Sunny County Commissioners to order for Tuesday, December 5th, unbelievably, Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. Please join me in the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, short prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask that you take special care of those men and women who are serving us and protecting our freedoms and their families. We ask that you give us the wisdom to do the right thing in representing those that put us in office. We ask all this through your Son. Amen. Amen. Okay. I will do roll call, I suppose.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Here.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
I'll accept the motion to approve the digital audio video recording of the previous board meeting held November 28th.
So moved.
Second?
Okay? I'll have to do roll call on that as well.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes. Okay, do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Any additions, deletions? Hearing none, we'll go to, we plan on doing land bank first thing,
Yeah, I asked him to come over at 10.
okay? So our esteemed county treasurer is here to talk about the land bank.
Well, I think we want to discuss 81 Jefferson Street.
Well, as it relates to the land
Yeah.
bank, yes. Okay. All right. So, what, you want us to lead the discussion?
Yeah, you can leave this
Why
going.
don't you tell us the procedure that has to happen through the land bank in order to dispose of, if you will, 81 Jefferson Street?
Well, background, the land bank was set up to handle dilapidated delinquent tax properties. We did receive a grant to try and demo properties, and we are in the process of trying to get some commercial ones taken care of. With the help of Commissioner Thomas, we've been working on the Attica FOE, trying to get some of that paperwork done so we can get that property down hopefully in the next few months. So the process with the land bank is we acquire properties either through transfers into the land bank by deed, foreclosures brought by the county, whether it's through Board of Revision or through Seneca County Common Pleas Court. And then the land bank makes the option to acquire that property if its condition so warrants. We're not trying to compete with private investors. Those properties still continue through the foreclosure process to be sold at sheriff's sale. We're trying to take care of the ones that are blight or ones we want demoed. So
Why don't
that's
you give us an idea, Damon, so far, how many properties have been identified and approximate dollar amounts, do you know that?
approximate what?
Dollar values, dollar amount of taxes that are hopefully gonna be recovered at some point?
Well, it depends on the ultimate end use. Right now, we have 10 that probably in the next 2 weeks are going to start being demoed in Fostoria. Fostoria is our primary point when we first established this. This was the area we're focusing on. December 20th, we got another 15 foreclosures coming through BOR that's going to attack some of the villages, the ones they've identified. Bettsville, I believe Green Springs, and Bloomville has several properties, along with several in Tiffin, that we have set for foreclosure. So currently there's about 50 properties in the land bank. Some of the ones were vacant lots. We have about 3 or 4 applications to sell those vacant lots back because they were delinquent on taxes to adjoining property owners. So that will yield some tax revenue versus what we weren't collecting, but keep in mind the appraised value on those vacant properties is relatively low.
Sure.
You're talking just a barren lot. What will happen is after the demo process, it'll just be an empty lot. And we are working with Habitat for Humanity in Fostoria. They've identified several properties. They are in fact on a couple lots over there that was transferred to them, I think through around September. That's going to be a site for a new home build. So they're trying to focus their efforts on what their plan's going to be for some of these tracts of land we have. And if you get that new home rebuilds, that could be $150,000 home sitting on a lot now, which was just vacant and not collecting any tax because it was delinquent.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the land bank's done a great job so far, and,
Just kind of getting started. It's all new.
yeah, it's wonderful, okay. So specifically about 81 Jefferson Street, the commission has agreed to transfer that to the land bank, and then in turn, what are the plans with it?
I believe there's some in use identified as for that property in that area for redevelopment. It's my understanding there is a proposed park that would end up being developed and wrapped around in order to beautify the downtown area of Tiffin, Seneca County.
Okay, so what action do we need to take? We approved that transfer to the land bank already?
We have not. We
You have
have, we had asked Derek to get the paperwork done, so we do have a resolution if you guys were interested in moving forward with that today. We put the stipulations in that I think we've talked about in board, the 6 months to remove the documents. The county will cover the maintenance, insurance, and utilities until the documents are out. And we had also had one other caveat to asking to put in there 12 months to raise the building.
Okay.
So those are some of the details that you've asked to put in there.
Are we set to move on this?
Yeah, is the land bank, if it transfers the property out, is it able to transfer that out with a deed restriction or with an intent to use the property for civic or community purposes?
In discussions with Derek, at the time the land bank then makes a transfer, we will have the time frame on raising the building and also as to that use.
Yeah.
It will be a deed restriction, deed covenant going forward. So that way it's safeguarded as to what our intent and purpose is with this property. That's just not used for an intent that was otherwise decided when the transfer occurred.
Right, yeah. Our intent is that it be used as a good betterment of the overall community.
Yes, based on the plans we've seen, that's
Yeah.
that's the intent.
Yeah.
Versus the what it's being used for now is unproductive.
Right.
And our 6-month clock starts ticking once the property is taken out of the land
I would
bank,
assume that
not when we give it to the land bank.
depends on the commissioners.
Yeah, the dates will be very similar,
Okay,
Yeah, but
if not the same.
okay.
Yeah, so the clock will begin to tick.
Yeah,
For
which
us
is,
to move the,
yeah, which I guess,
storage
you know,
items.
kind of a matter, gotta have a deadline, I guess.
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
we'll come up with somewhere else to,
Start the fire brigade, passing documents.
yeah.
it's gonna be part of the wellness program. How many points per box?
So I will accept the motion to transfer the property to the land bank.
can I read
Yes,
the
yeah,
title,
that-
please?
yes.
Because there's some things Derek liked us to put in the
All right.
title. Approving the quitclaim deed for the 81 Jefferson Street, Tiffin, Ohio, that is no longer needed for public use, and deeds it directly to the Seneca County Land Utilization Corporation pursuant to ORC 307.10B, reserving a time period to remove any records, property within the building, and time to raise the building.
Okay.
I will move that we accept that resolution.
I will second.
All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes,
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Roll.
Okay.
thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Yep. If there's anything else that needs to be added, we can do that before the land bank does that transfer out, because we do work closely with the county, obviously, look at the board as to the land bank. 2 commissioners are on it, and also Mayor Mons as well, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have some airport lighting repairs that Brad has got to discuss today.
We had an inspection last Tuesday, I believe. The state came up and reviewed their project. It was a year old, basically, and everything got signed off and everything's fine. And they reviewed the runway, the crack filling in the ceiling, and saw positive efforts and to get noted so that when we go for the taxiway or the ramp next year, that you've done some efforts on your own. We've had some water damage, which I sent everybody pictures, and you approved to get that taken care of, so we're getting some of it resolved. And I have a date that the contractor can come in March. And if we have not a wet winter, he'll start earlier, so.
So the cost attached to the lighting,
The quote I have is for $9,625.68. Yeah, I see a lot of bulbs, so I'm not really sure. Brad can explain what
We
all
had
those
water
are.
getting the conduit, the electricity came on, it exploded the bulbs, basically, is what happened.
And we didn't have money in place for this, so that's why we asked Brad to come in.
okay.
You guys are
Yeah,
okay with it? I can have Tanya prepare a
it's a
resolution.
necessary part of operations, if you ask me, so.
Yeah, all right. So I'll have a resolution prepared for next meeting, and I'll move forward.
Okay. Mr. Olson, we're in process with, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if
From our
that's,
standpoint.
yeah.
From the county street,
I don't
yes.
think it's closed yet.
Yeah,
I
but
think,
it's-
we've agreed to
Do what-
price
do what
and
we
agreed
said.
to a down
Okay.
payment or
Okay,
deposit, yeah.
very good.
Agreed to leave the trees until he takes them and all. Yeah.
But as far as the airport, I think we're headed in, we had a good inspection and things.
How often do those inspections happen?
Well, they happen every 2 years, but they happen after every project.
I see.
And we had the project to do that ramp area, and M&B won the bid. And they had it all down last November of
That was the NODOT
Six-
grant?
Yes,
Yeah.
November of 16, they finished, they couldn't seal it, and M&B kind of waited to seal it when they did the runway, so that's why it drug into September. So, and it could have been earlier, but they didn't, they combined the project, so.
The lighting, is that already done, or
It's done.
we need to do, it's
It's
done?
done.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you very much.
You bet, thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, Commissioner Stacy, it is Justice Center time.
Justice Center time. We had the meeting last Thursday of the leadership team, and general things that we don't always get reported, because we're always talking about what we're seeing visually and the progress of the project and so forth, is that it's still zero lost time on safety, and considering of the number of workers on the project. That's duly to be noted on, and I appreciate it, and by Gilbane and all the subs on the project. So that's 347 consecutive safe work days that they've had. Project schedule, as reflected in, I think, the follow-up articles or something we've seen, is that we're gonna be sliding our move-in a bit, as we was talked about a couple meetings back, to March, and having those scheduled out. Again, talked about last Tuesday and confirmed with some specific questions asked by various folks about the cupola, and that due to the manufacturing and the final communications between the Lady Justice manufacturers and the cupola, et cetera, we are where we are, and they might arrive about the same time, but it's all gonna be in the new year, and hopefully coordinated as such with while one crane is on site, that all those lifts can occur, and we keep moving along, so. Progress.
Perfect, yeah. One more solicitation for Lady Justice, there is a GoFundMe page. They have raised about 30,000, or a little more than that at this point. Something like that. So we are looking forward to getting that fully funded in GoFundMe.
Yeah.
$250 will get you a name as a donor.
Yeah, there you go. And we appreciate the Tiffin Historic Trust leading that charge
Yes.
and working cooperatively with the local bar association to get those things in line.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas, parking.
Parking, we had a meeting yesterday, and kind of reflected on Judge Shuff's proposal from a week ago, and talked with interested parties about possibly, opportunities to create additional parking. Also had a conversation with the health department about what their needs will be going forward, what they are currently. So, we got a little bit more information, continue to collect information. And, I guess the question is, do we want to act here on the proposal that Judge Schuff made on the recommendation of the folks involved with that parking committee, which is to take the Commissioner lot and the Hanson lot and make those employee parking only. So that's a proposal that's come out of the parking committee. Originally, it included, gating it, but I think that's been debunked as possible. But there's also been another proposal circulated, which would take the RTA lot, the Hanson lot, and the Commissioner's lot, and put numbered parking in all three lots, and distribute the available parking amongst those three lots, on Washington Street, on Market Street, and on Madison Street, if you will. So the good news is the county's done a great job of creating parking for its employees downtown, and we've invested a lot of money, and there's more spots than employees, so that's all good news. But it's, now how do we divide the bounty and balance the interest between commercial interest in downtown and county interests for employees downtown.
Okay, so we formed a group to talk about the parking. What is the consensus of the group, and where are we at with what people's thoughts are?
May I?
Sure.
Somehow, as chairperson of the committee, maybe there was a vote when I wasn't there. I don't know. But anyway, there's a number of people here from the parking committee. John Us is a member. Mayor Mons is a member. Julie Atkins is a member. Judge Kelbley's a member. Myself and Commissioner Thomas. Couple meeting before I came here, it was unanimously recommended that the parking that we suggested go forward with the commissioners. In other words, I think it was K&L, be designated for employee parking and designated with each spot, so there'd be, each employee would have a designated spot, and that would be both city and county as it worked in that area. And that, I think it was J, which is the RTA building, would be open to the public and the users of the county buildings, as well as retail establishments, people that would be using retail. That was a unanimous recommendation to you when I came here before. That is what we wanted. There's been some conversation otherwise, but the committee has not moved off of that recommendation.
Okay, that's one.
It may not be unanimous now, but it's still,
Okay.
a majority of the committee feels that K&L should be for employee parking and J open to the public.
Okay, so I guess there's a couple layers here. The second layer that I would ask about is the study that was attached to that. Where are we at?
Well, the good news is we were able, through the judges, to come up with another $1,000.
Okay,
So the judges are willing to put in $4,000 for a study, the scope of which we are not sure of, but frankly, we want to get things moving, so we're ready to put in the money for some type of study. We would ask the county to put in money. I think if the county does, the city will, for the study. The study is important to get done as soon as possible to get into any capital.
do we have some commitment from economic development for any study money? No?
I cannot comment. Mr. Zach is going to Columbus this morning
Okay.
for Bill
I
Ranke
knew
swearing
that-
in.
yeah, I knew there were a number of legs, and I didn't know which, which.
I can't commit for SIDEC. I can't commit for the judges, $4,000,
Okay,
$1,000 from each of the judges from our funds, our General Special Projects Fund, Judge Meyer, Judge Rapp, Judge Kelbley, and Judge Schuff.
So as I recall, the study was approximately $11,000.
And it may be more now if we're going to look at other options for a parking garage other than Lot 7, I believe it is, City Lot 7. It might be that we want to look at J, which is the RTA building, which is even
So-
more centrally located.
Whoever does the study, we want to give them a general, blank piece of paper and say, this is what we have.
Right.
Give us some recommendations.
Yes, and I understand it would be Gossman, who has done some studies already,
Okay.
and SIDEC would coordinate that.
Okay, well, I guess that we'll eat this animal one leg at a time here. So the first question is whether or not the county wants to approve the recommendation of the committee that would say that lots K and L, which is the commissioner's lot and the Hanson lot, be designated as parking for employees,
City and county employees.
city and county employees.
The
and
city
that-
employees would be the second floor of the Joint Justice Center, or the
Right.
Justice Center.
And that lot J, the RTA lot, better known as, would be for general public use, with a couple of exceptions. I think we decided that we would designate a couple of spots there for elected officials, if I remember the conversation correctly.
There was some conversation, yes.
All right, discussion, I guess. I just wanted to lay it out to know exactly.
Did I,
where we're at.
Judge Kelbley, John Huss, I say,
Yeah, please.
Mayor, anything that I've left out? Julie?
Any support for the proposal, guy? Any reason why we came to the decision we did, so that we have a sense to understand, is this a long-term situation, or what? Oh,
Short term.
Okay, so we're gonna test it for.
Test it, see how it works. We're looking at other lots too. We've been looking at the last meeting, the CSB lot, as well as the city lot. What number is that?
Which one?
The one across from Trinity.
3.
3.
Yeah. Yes, lot 3.
We looked at 3, we've looked at 7, and we looked at the CSB lot yesterday, as well as another privately owned property, and we won't necessarily discuss that one because it's privately owned. But we looked at other lots. But the first part of the proposal for short-term solution was the lots we're talking about, KL and J. We're also gonna look at all the other lots and come up with recommendations to the appropriate governmental entities that own those lots. But
I assume that the few spots are at the annex now will be used by the probate and juvenile court, is that the thought? The few spots that are behind the annex now.
that have been designated, and we've worked that out. That's gonna be the judges and the magistrates and the clerk of courts.
Okay.
And there are enough spots for those people.
Okay, what's your pleasure, guys?
And there's others here from the parking committee, if you want
Yeah, I
that.
mean, I'm-
John, or Mayor,
I'd love
or
to hear
Judge
from folks
Kelbley,
their
or
thoughts.
the Atkins.
Well, I think it's important to note that our goal was to make all on-street parking available for the public, to shop, whatever, so that there would be no county or city employees, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be parking on the streets, so to speak. And that was an important, I think it was an important part of what we talked about.
That's correct.
I agree 100%. I think that is a very important part, and I honestly feel that shouldn't be an issue now. I know that it is, and people would argue with me if I say they shouldn't be parking there now, and I'm sure that it happens, and I can't prove that, but I'm sure there's somebody that can. Here's where I struggle. Currently, with new signage that we have on our lots, we fail at any level of enforcement with what that new signage says. It says county business only from 8 to 5 or whatever this time is, and those are what signs have been out there a year, if that, that we've gone to the new signage, which look good. So I'm really wondering if we did the number system, are we just we're setting some rules out there that again are going to be really tough for us to keep enforced, and I don't know who in the county system and or in the city's payroll has the opportunity for some more assignments of responsibilities to go out there and check if person number 3 has got that car in slot number 23. And as I see the purpose, I just wonder if in time it shakes out, and can we get to the point of using what we have, and like I anticipate Rural King, Kroger, Walmart, pick your favorite big vendor out there when you can see the door from about anywhere in the parking lot. So there's the perception of a parking issue when you can't see the door when you park. That probably ask their employees, hey, will you park to this side, to that side, to the back of the building, or to the, to the far part of that parking lot? And can we get to that level without putting something in place with a lot of work that I don't foresee us being able to keep enforced and continue to enforce? And I just don't want to have us put all that physical work into this numbering and all of that and not have it work if employees can just, we don't use all the spots, and if they park further in their respective lot that makes the most sense to their working location. And I think bringing the municipal folks up, and even the additional juvenile probate, I think it'll work out, and we just kindly ask them, do not park in the street. Some of the municipal probably planned on using the city lot anyway, but we get rid of all the construction trucks and workers now that are doing the same thing some employees are doing, parking where we don't want them. But once we get all that shaken out, we anticipated a much bigger problem during these construction of all this interior work going on that we really haven't had it other than those abusing the street parking. We've told them to use our lots, the construction people, our lots, not the cities.
Well,
Just thoughts.
I gotta say that, my first thought was, there was a little bit of pushback on my part as well. But here is how all these questions have been discussed during the course of the parking committee's meetings, which they've had, how many?
2,312,000.
But, after giving it some thought, if I'm pulling into a private lot, I may take the chance if the spots aren't marked to take a spot. I may. But if I'm pulling into a private lot and those spots are numbered, it is highly unlikely that I would park in that spot, knowing that that is somebody's designated spot, because if they come in, I'm gonna get reported and probably get towed. So I think there's some sophistication to that, or probably some security to that when the spaces are marked. Number two, I don't think doing nothing is an option. If we say, well, we'll just let them park wherever they want to park, I would bet that most of the street would get used and the lots would be like they are now, unused, as in the majority. So, I think the committee had talked about, at least the meeting I sat in, talked about doing this for 6 months, trying to see whether or not it works. The enforcement issue is an issue, there's no question about it. We're not gonna find the sheriff or the city police aren't gonna go around marking cars. I mean, that's just not gonna happen. Yes?
If I could add to that, I've already chatted with the police chief. It's very easy for us to enforce if the spots are numbered and if John Logston issues a plaque that matches that spot. It's an easy ticket for the police department because it's a one-time stop. Your placard doesn't match your spot, or there's no placard in the car. It's an easy ticket. Whereas now they've got to go around, they have to mark the tires, then they have to pray they're not out on another call, and that they get back within that 2-hour time frame. And a lot of times they're out on another call or tied up and they're not able to come around. So that's why it's so difficult to enforce right now. We have placards matching spots. It becomes a very, very easy ticketing process.
But it is a low
for
priority,
enforcement.
I think, for them. I mean,
Yes.
I agree that it would be easier, and I hope that they could enforce it from time to time. And this won't be a very popular statement, but I'd also like, once in a while, somebody to look to see if there's number 16 employee parked on Market Street. Because I think that, that could be as much of a concern as or somebody else taking the spot that somebody had here.
I think it's an educational issue with the elected officials, making sure their people are in their spots. And I think that can be easily done by the elected officials. And secondly, besides educational to the elected officials, it is to the public. This is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, get it out, why we're doing it, and then, then enforcement.
I think it's again, given it further thought, I think it's very clear to the public if there is a lot that's designated as public parking and not partial lots. I just think that would be a matter of total confusion. If we had a lot that says the public can park in this lot, life would be much simpler and much easier to understand
The vast majority of the parking committee
But
agrees
it's
with
just
you.
with county lots, the city's lot has lots for that, and is there a time restraint on the county lots because the public coming to any of our buildings for any of the court services and/or, the county office buildings that we have not in operation now, if somebody parks in there for 8 hours that's
Yeah, I
not
think-
doing business in any of our buildings, and
Right.
that starts to give us some issues. I mean, I just.
Well,
I don't-
also retail would be using J.
Yeah,
Because,
addition.
because all the spots in J aren't gonna be used for county business. You know, they're just, very rarely that's ever going to
Is there a
happen.
time
So
restraint on it that they, I mean, retail will use it, but if they can be there 8 hours?
they use J now for retail. I mean, it's
Right.
nothing new.
Well, I think you posted as 2-hour parking. I mean, what you don't want to have happen is that an employee
Right.
of, pick a company stays there all day.
Right.
That's not the idea.
I think that's appropriate, unless they're jurors, and then we will give them
Yeah.
something for their vehicle that says they're in jury.
Appropriately, so yes.
Yeah.
I just think after the long discussions that this is at least a reasonable approach to make an attempt to do something. And something that makes sense. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll all agree that it doesn't. But, again, allowing the status quo to continue, I really don't think is an option at this point because it would be a real helter-skelter as far as parking goes. So, and I don't know if some of the city employees will continue to park where they are. I don't know that. And I don't know whether or not some of Jay's people will continue to park, the probate court will continue to park where they do. I don't know that. But I do know that if they're designated to have a specific spot, that the discussion pretty much ends with that. Look, you're in number 16, that's where we want to see your car, and it's up to the elected officials. When we talk about enforcement, it's really up to the judges and the clerk and whatever to enforce that.
And recorder, auditor, treasurer, and all the ones that are affected with this parking scheme.
So
I'm willing to put forward this proposal. I would propose that, in keeping with your thought on designating the spots as numbered, and I think we can paint the lines a separate color so that it designates it as a numbered and a separate painted spot that designates it as an employee parking. And that we designate the 18 spots in the RTA and the balance in the Hanson and the commissioner's lots to employees to be allocated by a council of electeds because they have to decide where their employees are going to park and who's going to have proximity priority because Judge Meyer has some issues there. And we agree to bring down the municipal court folks on the caveat that we have the conversation about, we're gonna need some parking in some other lots. So I think that's fair. So that would be my proposal. It spreads the wealth as far as where the open parking is. It puts it on Market, and it puts it on Madison, and it puts it on Washington Street, and it gives most people good proximate parking, and it is a step forward, a bridge to something in the future where more parking is created. So that would be my proposal.
Just so you know, that was not recommended by the parking committee, his proposal. So, and you do what you want, but that was not recommended. It was discussed yesterday, it was not recommended, because it's too confusing.
Well, I think the confusion will continue regardless, because it's, after 5, there'll be parking, and even if we do all government parking in the Hanson lot and the Commissioner's lot, there's gonna be extra spaces, so we don't wanna let those set vacant. So there's going to be a blend regardless. And, our experience has been that signage hasn't stopped the confusion, so that's my proposal.
Okay. Well, again, I'll reiterate what I had said. I just think it's a lot clearer to the public if there is a lot that's designated for the public as opposed to mixed use. That's where I'm coming from. And anybody else from the committee want to add anything? John, any thoughts? Any
I guess
strong-
I was curious why the gate idea was
Cost.
the cost, okay.
Yeah, and maintenance, ongoing maintenance.
It eliminates some confusion.
It does. It does. There was, the thought was that even on this lot here, we would bring it in further so that there would be some public spots out front of the gate, and then the gate. But it's just a question of cost benefit. I don't know, I think the gates were $4,000 or $5,000 a piece
I
or
never saw
something.
them, actually.
I think I remember a number like $8,000, but then you got the ongoing costs of maintaining them. Who's gonna, you know, who's gonna work on them if your car doesn't work or whatever. So I think it's a great idea, probably a better solution, but it's just a cost thing, yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Did Holly want to talk? I know she was.
I was gonna ask Commissioner Thomas if that was a proposal he wants, if
That was a motion.
a motion, and I will second it, and if, Mr. Chairman, it's okay, Mayor's comments during this discussion phase is fine with me.
Okay,
Okay.
we got a motion on the floor, go ahead, Your Honor.
I just want to let everyone know the city supports the original proposal that was made by the parking committee. And this proposal that was currently thrown out is a non-starter for us, so our lots will not be open to consideration if this is done. Lot J is the perfect lot to help businesses. I walked this morning down here to this meeting. I started my timer when I crossed Washington Street in front of the RTA building. I took the long walk here from in front of the RTA building, down Washington, down Madison, stopped it at the front door of this building, and it was 2 minutes and 13 seconds. If our employees can't walk that far, we're caving to special interest in putting government employees ahead of the public and helping out businesses. Sales tax is your largest generator on your budget, and here we are saying that government employees getting preferential parking right outside the door of their business or the place of work comes first, and I think that's wrong.
Which is why if there's some designated in each lot, that leaves some open in each lot
That is
for the
confusing to the
people going
public.
to
It
do
will
the
not
business there.
That will
It
not
leaves some for those who gotta go in and take care of a title, you know, just in and out, whatever types of things it is.
Okay, well, the last thing that I'll say before, well, maybe not the last thing that I'll say, but the thing that I'll say before the vote is that we designated a committee to look at this situation of some pretty good people. People that have an interest in the retail sector, people that have an interest in government. Those people came to us, except for our representative vote, and made a proposal that was unanimous. Other than that, and we had asked them to do that for us. They did that. They came to us with a recommendation, and now we are rejecting the recommendation, which I think is a poor way to handle things.
But I see it with one slight adjustment of just some of the numbered spots, and the idea of doing the numbering, the special painting on it, and all of that is well noted, and I think on a trial basis is well worth it, and I appreciate the committee's time. I just think it's in reference of just a few spots.
Again, you know, we asked for a citizens committee to make a
Gotta hand it.
recommendation, and we decide that we're not gonna take their recommendation, which I think is a very poor way to do things. Yes, Tyler?
The parking situation downtown, it's already confusing enough for people. If they pull into a lot and see specially marked spots with this row being yellow, this one being blue, they're still not gonna understand where to park. It's, with the RTA building, those are probably your busiest 4 blocks surrounding that area. We're trying to bring in new development to downtown, new businesses, new sales tax revenue. The city and the county have been working really closely together to come up with these downtown plans to drive traffic to downtown. It's really frustrating because I get complaints on it every single week. I mean, I know just in our building alone, Laird, we have 40 tenants. That's not counting the employees, the people that live there. We have probably 80, 90 people in that building with 12 parking spots. They have nowhere to go. So I mean, there's people that want to go downtown and shop, spend money, enjoy a nice evening. They have nowhere to park. They'll have to go 2 or 3 blocks down. I just think it gets really frustrating for people, especially coming out of town and they can't find a spot. They're gonna have a sour taste in their mouth. We're trying to drive tourism and economic development to Tiffin and Seneca County. I just think this is a bad idea.
Tyler, and I agree that we all want to see the city create more parking, but we're just trying to balance the entrance between what's at the Laird Arcade, Burns, Meyer Kirshner, Madison Street. We're trying to get, spread that wealth around, so.
I agree, there's just, that happens to be the busiest section of town, the Laird, the courthouse, the Renaissance, the Empire. As far as foot traffic goes, hands down, it's the busiest area.
With the recommendation of the committee, and again, I know that most of these questions have been hashed over and have been discussed to the limit. Again, the decision was made that, to one of the points earlier, if you can see the front door, you're more likely to go in. The RTA offers that opportunity, the RTA lot that is. And, I certainly think that it's worth trying for 6 months based on the recommendation of the people that are involved in retail and government. And that the emphasis has to be on the retail customer, as much as we want to make sure we accommodate staff. I don't think we prioritize the parking for the staff. We accommodate the retail customer. So with that, go ahead and give me a roll call.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
No.
And then we want to talk about the issue of the parking study.
I'd like to see this, make sure we can see the scope. You know, I mean, we're not gonna probably decide today on the amount anyway. We had a look at the document that was about a year old, I think, that Judge Shuff shared with us before on what that is. So I know what it is we're looking at. If it is indeed going to be some county land, then definitely, you know, we're part of it. If it's an overall study, we know it takes all parking, by all means, we probably, you know, want to put some money in it. I just want to kind of see the scope and.
I agree. I
Should
think,
know
you know,
better.
I'm predisposed to do it. I don't know what the scope is.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that as most studies, I'm not certain that the scope is revealed until the study is commissioned.
But your request for a proposal or whatever, if you're asking or looking at it, I mean, you've got to at least be somewhat narrowly defined.
So I guess that if.
Say downtown or something.
If we said that that we would participate at X dollars after reviewing the scope and approving the scope, that is where we'd like to be.
I mean, that's one way to do it. I mean, I think if they brought the scope to us, then with a dollar ask, that would be just as easy. Otherwise, we're gonna have to come back again and hash out the scope once that's been done.
What have we seen so far of the proposal?
The proposal that's floating around is to do a parking garage in Lot 7 with retail in the front and just the front part of Lot 7. So that's the proposal that we've been asked to fund, and you know, I don't know, that's the scope that we're looking at. You know, if we're looking at a different parking study, I mean, I think we're launching off of maybe some previous work that's been done for downtown parking. If we're considering other spots, then you know, there's some homework that needs to be done there. But you know, I think the ultimate answer is some kind of joint parking commission with more parking. But you know, how do we get there?
Okay, well, it sounds like we're predisposed to fund it, but until we see the scope, there's no sense having a big discussion because we're not gonna get it approved, it's pretty obvious. So, I will accept that we have some counsel here to talk about pending litigation. We're in the back, we need to move to executive session to have that discussion. I'll take a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes, we are in executive session.